Good to go? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Effingham County Board of Commissioners Work Session Agenda, September 16th, 2025. The time is now 4:06 p.m. Moving to new business item number 1. Take it away.
Yes, sir. So this will be the discussion of Section 3.4, which is buffers. At the November 7th, 2023 Board of Commissioners meeting, the buffers ordinance was approved. This was an update. Since then, we have noticed that the ordinance needs to be updated again. So amendments to the ordinance that you should have in your packet include a updated intent statement to reflect a more concise purpose for this ordinance. Language was added to address major subdivisions that have rear or side facing homes. This includes a 50-foot vegetated buffer requirement with the ability to install a 6-foot berm. Furthermore, AR3, R2, PD, and I1 were added back to the buffer chart as they were removed at one point. Now they are added back. And then more substantially, I think, is the enforcement section that was added to the buffer ordinance. And what this does is it requires buffer protection at the pre-construction phase of the development, and then specific penalties for removing or disturbing the required buffer. A stop work order being issued, a minimum monetary penalty of $500 plus an additional $500 for every quarter acre that is disturbed. The buffer shall be replaced at a density of 3 times greater than the original required plantings, and a landscape plan shall be prepared and submitted to staff prior to the planting. So those are the big updates to the buffer ordinance.
Okay. And I see the silt fencing's been added in there as the barrier. Perfect. Okay.
And I'll say on the second item that was that Chelsea mentioned, which was the rear yards. This was one of those things that was discussed by the steering committee, and it's one of the things that I know the board has discussed as to beefing up that protection from main roads. And so what we're trying to do here, originally the buffer says that you can clear if you put in a berm, and then it was a much smaller buffer. But here we're saying that we're widening the buffer requirement to 50 feet. You can, if the, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if there's no vegetation there already, you're developing on farmland or something to that effect, then in that point, a berm would be required, a vegetated berm would be required, and then within that 50 feet, it would be included within that 50 feet, and then you would have to plant beyond there. And the reason is, if you tried to plant a 50-foot buffer, it would take way too long to provide that level of privacy that people want, not just from who live in the neighborhood, but who want from the street. People driving on the street just don't want to see inside somebody's living room, trampoline in the backyard, what have you. So we've just kind of clarified that a little bit and beefed it up.
As another option, and just throwing it out there, is it possible we require a perimeter fence?
We do on the sides, but not on the
rear.
We don't require it on the sides, but we don't do it on the front. I mean, just because the fears the appearance.
I was talking about the rear of the house. Is like
yes.
You have two. Yeah.
Oh. What do we do on that? What I would probably put that in if I were to do that is the subdivision classifications.
Yeah, I'm just thinking
'Cause I
about
don't think
rain
people
dance,
care
for
an
example.
AR1 or AR2.
Yeah.
But if it's a major subdivision, this only applies to major subdivisions.
Right.
But I know for side setback, I mean for where you're going up against a neighborhood, not a street, you get a reduced buffer requirement if you put in a privacy fence there.
10 feet.
And what we could probably do here is, as long as it's not street frontage, we could probably do something similar there, so that as long as it's, like, let's say it's 50 feet, and you allow them a 10-foot reduction if they put in a fence, as long as the fence is on the property line of the house, or is on the far side of the buffer, and then the trees are on the street side of the buffer, I think we can accommodate that if they wanted to do it.
Because I think of Rain Dance, which is right by my neighborhood,
Yes.
and it has a fence, no fence, you know, it's all mixed up, but it's, you know, abutting Ebenezer Road.
Yeah, I think if that neighborhood had these, there would be 50 feet
Yeah.
protecting
They
them
have a
from
berm, but it's
Ebenezer.
about that high.
What's that?
The berm's about that high up front. I mean, it's about 3 foot tall, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but if it was all cleared, it would be what, 6 foot tall? How-
Yes, it would
yeah.
have to be 6 feet.
It would have to be minimum 6 feet tall, and then they'd have to vegetate the remainder.
Gotcha.
So, but the 50, but that's only if it's cleared. If there's wooded there, they have to protect that 50 feet of undisturbed wooded buffer.
The problem relying on fences is people just don't keep up
Maintenance,
with them.
yeah.
They fall down if they're
Yeah.
not gonna, you know.
Well, that's what I was saying. Maybe we have them, if they're on the neighbor's side and not the street front side,
Okay.
then if it falls in disrepair, the vegetation will cover it up, and it's the resident who would have to maintain it.
Yeah, because the one off Chimney Road's a good example of
Yeah.
fences in disrepair right there, going down Old Augusta. The next thing is moving to the monetary penalties of $500 a minimum. Who's setting the maximum?
Well, the reason we reworded it that way is that the maximum is going to be set by how many quarter acres you disturb. So if you disturb 1/8 of an acre, it's $500.
Okay.
If you disturb, how much is it per quarter acre? 500?
500.
Yeah, if you disturb 4 acres, it'll be, it'll be 2,000. Is it 2,000 or 2,500?
Just curious
Yeah.
can we not up that?
2,000 per acre, right?
Yeah,
Or
so-
why
yeah.
would we start at 500 instead of,
Quarter acre.
Well, and
5,000.
the thought being that it's really based on, like, 1/8 of an acre of disturbance may not be that big of a deal, but it allows us to initiate a penalty on it. But when you start disturbing, like if you were to do the entire perimeter of a property, I mean, it's going to be in the thousands of dollars.
Well, and that was my thought, is if you put something like another 0 behind it, for example, that is going to you're kind of getting ahead of it instead of worrying about it later.
You
But-
better stay reasonable, you get kind of arbitrary, you know, if you
Well,
said
if
$1
they're
million,
putting- yeah.
I mean, that's not
Well, if
reasonable.
they're, yeah, I understand, but if they're putting the silt fence up, you've set a perimeter already, so you know this could be disturbed or not.
Right.
We see them take shortcuts all the time just because that's what they do. They're like kids, you give them an inch, they take a mile. So if we make it, just say 1,000, that's gonna hit harder than, 3 zeros hits harder than 500. I'd be thinking about it if I was a project manager or a superintendent
Oh,
on the
true.
job.
But my point is, and we could do that. I think we're limited under the ordinance to $1,000. Our ordinance might not. I'd have to look at it, but I think the county can charge, or the magistrate or whatever, up to $1,000 per incident, whatever
Oh,
the
it's,
incident is. But in this case,
Come on, magistrate court total civil
Ye-
penalty, it's
yeah.
like, I thought it was like $5,000 or something like that.
I can look at it.
Okay.
But I think in this, we're